Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to look at Hive. Hive allows you to use SQL to run query against large data sets stored on Hadoop. Originally it was developed at Facebook. And very similar to Pig, Hive also can run on a client side, meaning there's nothing to install on Hadoop cluster. And the language that you use is called HiveQL, so it's very similar to SQL. And same thing as in Pig. Something that you write in using HiveQL, it would get converted into MapReduce job, which then you can run on a Hadoop cluster. So let's look at an example of how you would use Hive. So similar to the example you saw for Pig, where you want to find the maximum temperature across all years. So what would you do here? So first thing, you need to create a table as in any SQL, right? So you create a table. And here, this is the time where you specify how your data is separated. So here we say the data file is tab separated. And the second thing that's unique to Hive that we will not see in Pig is that you need to load the data. And you use the load data command where you will load the data into a local directory of Hive. And after the data is loaded into the table, then you can do the query. So this is exactly the same query that you would use to, in the same example that you saw in Pig, so finding the highest temperature by year. So if you look at the syntax here, it's actually very similar, I would say even identical to what you would write in SQL. You say select year, the maximum temperature from your records table, and doing some filtering on the temperature grouping by year, so then you get a year for maximum temperature for every year. So you get 1949, 111, 1950, 22. As a result. So, and actually that's it. So that's how you use Hive. So once you have the data loaded, everything is pretty simple. And now you might ask, so, well, I can do the same query in Hive, and previously you saw this is the same thing that's done using Pig. So they look somewhat similar. In Pig, you have the data flow sequence, and in Hive, you have the SQL, exactly the same SQL you would use in a relational database. So what a difference, right? So here's a very good comparison. So Hive, or roughly SQL, we say this is a declarative language. So meaning you tell SQL or Hive what you want, but you don't specify how to do it. While in Pig is what we call a procedural language. So meaning you specify every single step. So which is why you have the data flow sequence. So every data flow or transformation is one step. Second difference is that in Pig, you can do something we call checkpointing. So that means in the whole pipeline, the whole data flow sequence, after every single step, you can actually check what's the output of the data. This is not something that Hive or SQL can offer. You only write one long SQL, and you cannot really see what's happening in between. You only get the final result in the end. And the third thing is that when you're using Hive or SQL, you need to have some faith in the SQL optimizer, because it's a declarative approach. So you would say, oh, I want this, but I don't really know how it's done. So Hive or SQL will need to figure a lot of that out. And the fourth thing, very unique to Pig, is we call something called splitting of the pipeline. So that means in Pig, you can, let's say you want to do two kinds of analysis, but the first part of these two analyses are the same. So that means you can share the same data flow up to that point, and then you split the pipeline, and now each part would be performed or processed differently. Finally, Pig developers can use their own code, meaning they can specify different ways of loading data or writing data after each step in the Pig pipeline. So we've looked at a quick example of Hive, and also we compare how it's different or similar to Pig.